Welcome. It's the Glitter Boom Girls Show. I'm Robbie Ann McPherson on the East Coast.
And I'm Amy Esberg on the West Coast.
Woohoo! So, there's a cough waiting to happen somewhere in me. So I may have to mute out and cough in a second. Okay, so today, there it is. So, today, speaking of coughs, my cats are super excited.
Why?
Because we are talking about one of the most powerful nostalgia triggers in the world today, and that is smells. Dun dun dun. We need theme music. What is it, baby? Come here. Okay, Katie McLickens is gonna sit in mommy's lap while we do this. Okay, so AIM.
Yes.
Childhood smells. Now, you and I are both smells obsessed people in anyway. Like, some people aren't, right? But I mean, I choose a perfume for every era of my life.
Me too.
You know, my home is I've got certain fragrances and scented this and that. Everything I have is scented somehow. Sorry, you guys. It's just like a frog in my throat or something. So yeah, I'm a huge scent person, as is Amy. So Amy, tell me, let's do this chronologically. So when is the most recent time that you have smelled a smell that sort of took you back, and what was that smell?
I just recently smelled a campfire.
Oh.
And we had a lot of bonfires and campfires in the summer in California. A lot of parents would sit around the fire pit and talk, and the kids would run around. It was a summer thing, the campfire, or a barbecue, grilling burgers by the pool,
right,
and hot dogs by the pool. So it's the smell, and it's something that transcends. It could be anywhere, and I wonder if it's from the dawn of time that we all, our cells and our DNA like that smell. I don't know. But that took me back to the good old days.
That's interesting too, because you just hit on something that I was going to bring up, which is the combinations of smells can sometimes trigger. Like, one thing may not trigger it in and of itself, but like when you smell barbecue and pool chlorine, and the sort of pool smell, right?
That hybrid is a good one.
Yeah, because not all of us grew up with a pool, so it doesn't always equate childhood to a lot of people. But my friends had a pool. Our neighbors across the street, the beautiful Perfect Girls, they. And I you know what, I say that with love too, because they were beautiful, perfect girls and still are. But they had a pool. And so sometimes we would go over there, and the smell of chlorine for me, and eating like potato chips and drinking Pepsi, that kind of combination, man, that will take me back. That will take me back to, like middle school and maybe the end of grade school and pool parties and stuff like that. Because I was always hungry at pool parties. There was never enough food. I
think you're right. And I not only was I wanting chips and Pepsi, but the smell of the vinyl pool toys.
Yeah.
When you jump in the pool and your face slams against one of those rafts.
Right.
And you smell that weird vinyl petroleum smell.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah. And the, like, all of the stuff around had, vinyl and plastic, like the lawn chairs and the tablecloths. And so, yeah, there was that total damp chlorine mixing on the vinyl, But I just always remember being starving. And sometimes there was a pizza coming. If it was like a girls' pool party, there'd be like a pizza Oh, the pizza's going to get here at 4. And I'm like, it's 2. It's 2 o'clock. I'm starving. Like, you know, and so that's when I would get into the potato chips and stuff, and drink an extra glass of pop because I was starving. I was like, who doesn't eat until 4? Like, I haven't eaten until since breakfast. What's going on? Or like you said, there would be like a barbecue thing, but that was usually like a big family deal, right? Like dad had, the father would be out with the burgers
and beer.
Yeah.
Lots of
Oh,
beer
yeah.
in my case, my family's case.
Yeah.
I remember having wet hands from the pool and eating, like, people would always buy like these barbecue chips, which are not my favorite, but when you're starving and your hands are all orange,
Right.
you're like
Yeah.
out of the pool and your hair's all plastered to your head.
Right.
And when you're a little bit older, 11, 12, you feel weird about your swimsuit, because you're like kind of going through puberty and you wear like a big t-shirt, and you just, you're like feeling uncomfortable and your hands are orange.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely ate a lot. Like, I very clearly remember eating brownies with wet hands because I was starving. And, they bring out, they're like bringing out things one by one because we're getting ready to eat. And I couldn't get into the macaroni salad because, like, you had to have a plate and a fork for that, and they didn't bring those out yet. But I was so damn hungry, and the brownies were just piled up there in a little pyramid. So, I just swiped a brownie and, like, scarfed it in my face. And I remember, too, speaking of chlorine, for a few years, I was forcibly joined to the swim team. Like, my dad, I maybe he was trying to get me in shape, or I don't know what, but you're a good swimmer and be on the swim team. And it was like the town swim team, so it wasn't the school swim team. I wasn't that good a swimmer. I mean, I was a good swimmer. I wasn't a fast swimmer. So I remember, and of course, when was swim season? In the dead of winter. And it was always freezing. Everywhere it was freezing. And when and you dive into that freezing cold water, that was like torture to me. Like, I would tell you whatever you wanted to know if I just didn't have to dive off the block into that water. And after the swim meets, I would go stand in the gym in the hot shower for like 45 minutes, just trying to like thaw out. And
wow.
Oh yeah, it was so brutal. Like Buffalo, it's Buffalo, right?
What did? Oh, keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say it's like 20 degrees outside, and so the smell now. When I smell like pure chlorine bleach, like the kind of bleach they use to clean the locker room, like I cleaned my bathroom today, and I got a whiff of the bleach, and I, it sort of still takes me back, like woo.
Bleach, definitely.
And can I just sidebar and tell you that my parents, the swim practice was at like 7 o'clock or something and ended at like 8:30, and then parents were supposed to pick us up at 9 because we showered and everything. And my parents were always late. So I would be sitting outside and it's 2 degrees and it's like windy and freezing. I mean, literally freezing. And by the time I got in the car, my parents, oh, sorry. My hair it was long. So like the ends of it were literally frozen. Like,
unbelievable.
Yeah. And
that's scary.
It sucked. But walk it off. So I remember telling my parents, after they'd been late like 3 times, and that particular month it was like 10 degrees every day, I was like, do not be late picking me up anymore. Do not be late picking me up because they make us wait outside. And they're like, yeah, okay. So they were late the following Wednesday or whenever practice was, and I quit. I quit the swim team the next day. I was like, that's it. You can't pick me up on time. And here I am. I'm like 11 years old waving my finger at my parents. I'm like, you can't pick me up on time. I sit out on the stoop because they make us wait outside after they close the school and freeze my ass off with wet hair. I'm not doing it anymore. I
No.
quit.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that was it. I took a stand.
Wow.
So sorry, that was a little sidebar there, but
Well, that was wow, though.
what
I
were you
want to
going to say?
know. I was gonna say, what did your house smell like? Or could
Oh,
you smell your own house? Because we often cannot smell our own houses. Uh, which I notice when I walk into someone's house and it smells like dog pee or cat poo or something. I'm like, oh, they don't know how their house smells. Um, what did your house smell like when you returned from school or something? What was the scent of your home?
well, it kind of depends on which stage of childhood I was in because there were so many different houses.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I think of the most, like if I was little, like say I was getting off the elementary school bus,
Mm-hmm.
um, my house, my mom was always kind of baking something,
That's
like getting dinner
lovely.
ready, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the house always smelled like food cooking, which was really great. And to this day, when I go and visit my mom, shout out to my mom, I love you, mom. When I put the key in the door, because I have a key to her house, and I can smell, like she's cooking, I literally say, I've been saying literally a lot. I don't know why. But I say a prayer of thanks that, she's here and it's just so nice that smell like mom's in there cooking and whatever
What
it
a
is.
comfort. It
Yeah,
sounds like such a comfort.
comfort. Thank you for that word. Yeah, yeah. How about you? What did your house smell like?
I don't know. I don't know what my house smelled like because I was in it. I do know that when I was at school, the public school always smelled like paint. They'd always slap a new coat of paint every few years. It smelled like paint, and the playground was just what? Oil, like pavement,
Yeah,
you know,
asphalt.
asphalt. There you go. It smelled like asphalt outside. The inside smelled like kind of just this dull paint smell, like this kind of maybe a little bit of mildew, you know. And then my grandparents' house smelled like cigarettes always, and like coffee, and like
Yeah.
a little bit of like white shoulders or one of those old perfumes of my grandmother's, you know.
Oh, I love that. My grandmother's neither one wore perfume, which I just realized. I was today years old when I realized that
Hmm.
neither one of my grandmothers wore perfume. My dad's mother used to wear oil of Olay.
Oh yes,
And back then, when oil of Olay came in the pink jar,
yes.
like a pink bottle kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
it had a very distinct smell. And she always smelled like oil of Olay. And she used Ivory Snow um, clothes detergent, which has again also has a very, but she used the powder. Now you can
Mm-hmm.
get the liquid today. I'm assuming you can get the powder somewhere. The liquid has a different, little bit of a different smell to it than what my oma really smelled like. And incidentally, sidebar, liquid Ivory Snow will get cat pee out of anything.
Good to
Yes,
know.
it will get it off the floor, the walls, furniture, clothing. There, it's an enzyme in it, and
McLickens, you have some explaining to do.
no, 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 no.
Oh,
My beloved
balls. She's
Puma.
all off the ceiling,
Yeah,
off my car, off my desk at work. Wait, what, girl? What? Where is this cat been?
no, my beloved Puma who passed away in 2013. He right at the end of his life, he had a little problem.
Okay.
And it wasn't. Listen, I'm a huge cat lover, and this was just his situation. So I made sure I was kind of running around after him with rags and always cleaning up. But I did discover that that Ivory Snow gets it off out of a rug. Even it's pretty good. So anyway, but both my grandmothers did smoke, but they smoked different cigarettes.
Right,
So
right.
my grandmother smoked. Now I want to say it was Pall Malls. Was that a
I
cigarette?
think you've said this before. Because I know you all know my grandmother smoked Parliaments. I believe you said your grandmother smoked Pall Malls.
Yes. Okay, I'm looking up the packaging.
And that
These
was my favorite cigarette in the big cigarette vending machine. I liked the Pall Malls because it looked like a dark pink, which I think it was just faded from the sun and it was probably red.
yeah,
That was my favorite box because I could read what it said. Pall Mall. I was
yeah,
like,
and it has a great
yeah.
font. Like the
And it was great
package,
font.
and it has a little
Um,
kind of crest, like a English looking
it looked
crest on it.
cool.
Yeah, it looks um
Benson and
my
Hedges looked boring. And
yeah.
Merritt, like Merritt. I was like, Merritt, that's boring. Sounds
Benson
like a
and Hedges
car.
look too officey.
Yeah, I was like,
That
eh.
that was like yeah, that was like a officey
And then there was
packaging.
those teeny little capris. There were like these tiny little cigarettes that looked like a toothpick. They were
Yeah.
so skinny.
Oh wait, no, Benson. Okay, well, I'm looking at modern packages. Wait, I want to see the Benson and Hedges. I'm googling this stuff as we're talking about
Oh
it.
yeah, so Benson and Hedges Merritt. And I just remember being in, some coffee shops, it's smelling like coffee and the smell of maybe fries in the background and pulling all the little knobs on the cigarette vending machine.
Right.
And there was a certain smell to those 70s restaurants. They
Yeah,
all kind of
because
smelled the same.
you that's right. And
Like the
you
diner smell.
cuz they didn't have the ventilation stuff they have now, right? So if they had a fryer,
Mm-hmm.
you could really and back then they were, frying it in like oil, it wasn't might not have been vegetable oil and stuff like as we discussed in our Burger King versus McDonald episode. There was beef tallow. Wow, speaking of which, McDonald's and Burger King had very distinct smells.
Very much.
Like
Very
you would
much.
drive by and smell, which is
Mm-hmm.
I read is actually a chemical like that. Like, you know, it's not like they're back there cooking it on the grill. Like they actually release this kind of chemically, thing. But
What a good smell it was.
yeah, I still, if I drive by a Burger King now, I don't care if it's chemical. I'm still like, oh, I want a Burger King.
You're like, I'll still eat it.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Did we smell? Because I know when we worked at the famous deli,
Hmm.
I came home smelling like pastrami nearly every single day. What about you?
Yeah, the smell that your uniform absorbed at that place was brutal. And I would come home and like take my clothes off and we had washer dryer in the basement of our apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I would put them it was like hazmat. Like I would put them in a in by themselves, not with any other clothes. Put them by themselves in a laundry basket, take it down to the thing right away. Cuz if I let the uniform sit in the laundry basket in my room, then my apartment smelled like the very famous deli where we
Mm-hmm.
worked.
Correct.
And yeah, to me, it was a mix of the grease, like the French fries, in the fryer, and the pastrami, and then sort of this, it's like a boiling, steamy
It was like a
smell.
sour smell. You smelled
Yeah.
sour.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. And thank God they didn't have a smoking section at that time. Can you imagine if you added cigarettes on top of that?
No.
I just,
No.
that would be brutal. Yeah. I don't have a trigger though for that smell. Do you?
Oh, I do. Yeah. I went to Brent's Deli the other day here in LA and I smelled that same smell. It
Really?
was the
Okay.
same. But I remember coming home with kind of a film on me, feeling like I had been smoked like a brisket, like
Yeah.
I could be like put up on the
Yeah.
the block and sliced.
Yeah, I felt like I had been like steam cooked like corned beef or
Like
something. Yeah.
boiled, like maybe boiled like some corned beef,
Yeah,
some
like
spices.
there was definitely a film. Absolutely a film because that was the other thing is you'd have to get in the shower and shower from top to bottom and wash that shit off because it was so brutal. Totally
I'm
brutal.
surprised dogs were not chasing us all the time.
Yeah, just like waiting around, like packs of wild dogs waiting around for us to get off our shift.
Oh my gosh. But my favorite smells from when I was a kid, like if you asked me then, it would be the smell of Disneyland, which was just, as we all know, they pump stuff out in the air now and the magic is over. But it smelled like waffle cones and popcorn
Yeah.
and just joy. It was just like the greatest smell. We went once a year. And also the smell of campfires. And I also loved the smell of a real Christmas tree, that pine smell
The
with the sap.
Christmas
Like you rip
smells.
off a branch and there's a kind of sap from the Christmas tree. That was a really, really special smell.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if walls still smell that smell, but I still get a real Christmas tree, and that's a lovely smell that makes me feel really happy.
Yeah, I hear that. If I drink champagne, now this is another
Mhm.
combo trigger for me.
Oh,
If I
okay.
drink a little champagne and smell a real tree, like at somebody's house. I have a fake tree now, but if you're at someone's house and you smell that pine and stuff, and I get the
Beautiful
the
smell.
mixture of it, and then you kind of smell like hors d'oeuvres, because hors d'oeuvres have a particular smell, like
Yes.
hot hors d'oeuvres. They don't smell like dinner. They smell like something else, and that combo will take me back to like every Christmas Eve that I was fortunate enough to spend with my family. And my dad's mom, we would do my dad's mom on Christmas Eve and then my grandma, my mom's mom, on Christmas Day. And so Christmas Eve was it was like a little fancy, honestly. Like we had oyster stew, and
Beautiful.
yeah, my oma would make this delicious oyster stew, which my dad's wife then kind of figured out how to make, because it's hard to make that stuff. And then at the for dinner we would have a little champagne and do a little toast, right? And then also the smell of the scented candles and things like that, and that whole like Christmassy smell, that even if it's in the middle of summer, and
It's a
I
beautiful smell.
yeah, I'll smell like a certain candle or something, and it kind of, all of a sudden you're back in the room. Like it's a really great trigger. And while we've been talking, I've been trying to think of what our house smelled like. Um because when you said that you really don't remember, I don't really remember either. Like, I remember when we moved from the house in the woods to the neighborhood, there was a lot of construction and uh, you know contract work we had to do for that house. So the smell of primer paint and sawdust will take me back to
Oh,
that, like,
yes.
right, like if I'm
Uh-huh.
somewhere and they're working on a house or whatever, and there's just that certain smell, and like wood stain and all that stuff. I remember that period because my mom did a great job of like taking, it was a really old farmhouse, like built in 1880 or something, and
Wow,
so
that's
she,
neat.
yeah, she figured out all this, like shutters on the windows, and had all these built-ins, and blah blah blah. But yeah, that takes me back. But I don't really know what our house smelled like. I know what our friends' houses smelled like,
Of course. Right,
right? Like
right.
like the Perfect Family across the street, their house always smelled kind of like the mall, right? Like it was fresh, clean air, but it might have been, like some filter. They had air conditioning. I mean, I was blown away that they had, um, like air conditioning in the whole house. Like
Oh, yeah, that's
they,
unheard of.
right? They had AC. I was like, wow, air conditioning, because I never had. I mean, for Pete's sake, my room in the farmhouse had no heat element in it at all. So like
We
I
had a
had
swamp cooler that you had to hose down and all this stuff.
a swamp
It's
cooler.
called a swamp cooler, and it was so loud. It was like, you'd be watching Love Boat with this big in the background.
And you're laying there like half sprawled out because you're still too hot. And
My friend Tamar, her house always smelled like her dad's vitamins, like the smell of her dad, like had all these supplements. So it was
yeah,
like that
they have a
vitamin
smell.
smell.
Yeah, they
Hmm.
totally have a smell.
And then my other friend's house smelled like their dogs, just dogs, like kind of dirty dogs, but it was to me a good smell. And they had pepper trees. So the smell of pepper trees and dogs, dog hair.
Yeah.
but it was fun for me, And one of my grandparents' house, the smell of the garage was the smell of, I don't know if any of you out there have ever smelled this, but just really old wood that is kind of soft now almost.
Yeah.
And it's the
Yeah.
smell of just old, it's almost a sweet smell.
Yeah.
And it's just old wood, like
Right.
about to be petrified. It's so damn old, but that's the
Right.
smell. Your grandfather's garage, that's a neat smell.
Yeah, that's a mixture too. Like my our garage was jam packed. Like you couldn't get a car in there
Right.
because my dad had all his tools and and he had his motorcycle in there and every once in a while he would clean out the garage, clean out in quotes, and he would move everything out of the garage. But this acorn did not fall far from the tree. Like, because I do this too when I'm trying to clean something out. You find something like, oh, look at this, and then you're sitting in the middle of like this disaster around you, and you're like looking through some old photo book, and then all of a
Right.
sudden it's like dinner time, and so Dad would just move everything back into the garage.
Yeah.
So that was cleaning out the garage. Like he never actually got rid of anything. He just kind of moved it around. Like he moved it out and then he
Uh-huh.
moved it back. And there was a lot of tools. There were a lot of those big tool cases on wheels. But the
Yeah.
the garage itself, we had a bat colony in our garage.
Wow.
So it smelled a little bit like bat guano, which is pretty distinctive and not pleasant. And again, it's an old farmhouse, so it was like a big old garage. And then you could smell like the rubber tires and
Rubber tires,
right, and
yes.
like a little bit of
Uh-huh.
Oil mixed on the floor and stuff
The
like that.
gasoline kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because there were always like because of the lawnmower, there were always three or four, metal gasoline containers
Mm-hmm.
sitting around and stuff, and um a lot of weird. Dad always had these weird automotive fluids, like I don't know. Well, he'd have like motor oil and then some kind of Valvoline engine cleaner and some kind of whatever and this and that, and they were all in these bottle containers that were all weird shaped like funnels or and he knew what to do with all of them, because I'm driving all these jalopies, and he'd be like, he'd listen to the engine and then he'd go in and he'd mess around like a wizard,
That's so
with
cool.
potions and stuff, and then he'd come outside with one of these um one of these weird shaped bottles. He'd be like, put this in the gas tank, I'd be like, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so his was always like it was very automotive workshop kind of auto shop sort of
Uh-huh. I know
smell,
exactly what that smell is.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, in your house, was your family like a scent family? Like, were there air fresheners everywhere, or were there not? Or
No, it did smell like cut grass every weekend because they
Mhm.
cut the grass with the lawnmower. We had a lot of fruit trees, so there was a very much of a citrus smell outside my home. So we always had grapefruit or oranges or tangerines or peaches or nectarines. California has a lot of citrus. So citrus in general, I'm going to say was just the air of my neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh God, that sounds wonderful.
It was pretty tremendous smell. And there was a lot of, before we had sidewalks in the valley, it was just kind of dirt because there was horses walking around. It was kind of a horse area. So kind of the smell of dust and dirt and fruit trees I would say would be the smell of my life as a younger girl. As a little bit of an older girl, the smell of beauty products like Aquanet and these terrible, just terrible sprays I would get from the drugstore, kind of overtook my life. They smelled like the 80s. Just a smell that was like so false,
Yeah,
like
and
so
harsh.
not a real smell, like just a hateful smell. That's all I smelled when I was a little older, just my own products. But
I
before that, it was, yeah, citrus, animals. There's always some kind of one neighbor would have chickens and lay eggs. It was kind of a farm slash food type of area. So kind of an old-fashioned smell, really.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, natural, clean smells, other than your harsh beauty products, of course. But like, to we had pear trees outside the house that was in the neighborhood, the one that mom did all the work on,
Mm-hmm.
and what we didn't realize, because we never had fruit trees, was when you have a fruit tree, it's
Mm-hmm.
very important that you pick the fruit,
Oh, yes.
right? Because if you
Yes.
don't, it falls off the tree and rots.
It rots on the ground, and a bunch of bugs go to the rotting, and there's flies everywhere.
Right.
Pick your
And the
fruit, people.
stench.
Yes.
There's and pears, let me tell you folks. Okay, pears eaten off the tree, unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But we had these, apparently they were radioactive because there were more pears on that tree than I've ever seen in my life. And we didn't really know about how you had to pick it. Like I would just go out and pick one or, pick two. We didn't realize that this was a thing and you had to get the ladder and the baskets and you had to pick them and give them to people or make pear jelly or whatever you did because they did fall off the tree. And there was this whole rotted pile of pears, around the tree. And after a while, they start to stink and it smelled like, it was like a combination of like alcohol-y fermented something and sulfur. So it was like this weird, horrible smell. And then, like you said, the flies came. And I could see the pear tree, of course, was right outside my window.
Of course.
And, it's summertime and we have no air conditioning or anything. So I've got the windows open. And I would look outside and I would watch these woodchucks and like all manner of wildlife, going, hey,
Hey,
like,
guys.
right, bonanza, it's a fruit buffet. And they're all like the squirrels having a field day. And so that smell, I haven't smelled rotting pears since we left that house. But I'm sure that if I did, it would take me back to to that moment. And you know what?
There was a lot of jasmine around my houses, and I don't
Oh,
remember
that's such
seeing
a
it. I just
great
remember smelling it.
smell.
It was a
that is
spring smell.
that is one of my favorite
It
smells
was a
on planet
glorious,
Earth.
glorious smell. Jasmine, the white jasmine, and you'd smell it at night,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful smell. And I kind of just never knew where it was coming from. I'm like, who has the jasmine? But it smelled really glorious.
Oh, I love that.
And you know what else was a wonderful smell was certain toys. You might have been out of the range of these particular toys, but strawberry shortcake smelled like this kind of a fake strawberry smell, but it was just very faint. And it was
Ah,
really, really good strawberry candy smell. And her friend Blueberry Muffin smelled like a blueberry. They all smell like a berry.
right.
And the Cabbage Patch Kids, ask any girl who was 10 in 1984, they smelled like a faint baby powder smell. And it was the best smell because you're like, I've got a Cabbage Patch because it's so hard to find one.
Right.
And it was its little delightful smell of this very faint, not a really strong like Johnson and Johnson, but a beautiful faint like smell of a baby.
Oh,
It was lovely.
do you remember the Dakin stuffed animals? They
I
were
do.
right.
I don't
They
remember what they smelled like, but they were really pretty.
they had a distinct smell too. It was because the fake polyester fur or whatever they made the animals out of, and these,
The acetate.
if you guys don't remember, Dakin was a company that made a million different animals, and they were large,
They were
like
pretty. I
cat
felt like they were
size.
well made.
Yeah, and they were very detailed and really cute. They were wonderful stuffed animals. And a friend of mine in junior high and grade school, junior high, she and I each had a collection. Like hers was much bigger than mine, and I was insanely jealous because she had this cool white, those white plastic shelves where it's like the shelf and then the four posts and you snap
My
them in,
sister had one of those.
snap the shelf.
Yes.
Yeah, she had like a mini version, and she had all of her Dakin stuffed animals neatly displayed on it, which
That,
I was like,
oh,
that is the shit right there. And
yes.
so I begged for a similar arrangement, and I got these industrial white metal shells.
Oh, that's actually
So
better than the plastic,
they
no?
were white, but they were wide. So it wasn't quite the same display look. However, I did love it, and it made me enlarge my collection because I had room for all these Dakin stuffed animals. But they smelled like, you know what smells similar is
Mm.
it is a what are okay, there are wool carpets, right? What's the
Mm-hmm.
fake fabric that carpets are made of? It's not yarn, but it's like a
I
polyester
always
yarn
thought it was
maybe.
acetate, but or
Okay.
rayon or one of
Yeah,
those.
it could be acetate or rayon or something because I think that's a similar smell. I have smelled some carpets that smelled a little bit like a Dakin animal, and I'd be like, oh, not that I'm crawling around smelling carpets, you understand, but I'm saying like you go to Home Goods and they're all hanging, you know, all those carpets are hanging from the giant like poster display
Mm-hmm.
thing, and so you grab both hands and you hoist one. Well, some of those will smell like a Dakin stuffed animal, and it kind of takes me back. I miss mine. My favorite one was I had a lion, and
Oh,
of
that was
course
a
I named
very
him Aslan. Right?
that was oh very yes. C.S. Lewis, Narnia, The Chronicles of Narnia.
Right?
Those were beautifully made animals.
Yeah, yeah. And
My
they had
sister had the penguin. There was like a really good looking penguin with a little baby penguin.
oh yeah, and that was another trait of them. They often had some little thing like a baby that came with it that tucked into a pocket, or they had like two monkeys with big arms and the Velcro, and they were hugging each other.
Don't talk about those because it reminds me of those bunnies from Easter
Oh,
that my
that's
sister got the
right.
better ones.
That's
But yes, they were
right.
perfectly marvelous and they were just so fun when you're a kid. You're just like, and then you kind of play like you're the mommy of the animals. You know, it's just fun.
Yeah, I would create these like you know, these animal townships and stuff. And you know, they're like Aslan it was kind of a kingdom and he ruled, and that was I was big into I should have been an urban planner or something because I was always building these towns. And my mother would come in and there'd be all these like, you know, chairs and pillows and blankets and boxes and stuff because here's the town hall and here's the horse's house and this is Aslan's castle, and you know, and it was a disaster. Like if you just looked at it, to me it was like this fantastic Narnia village or whatever. But if you walked in the room, which my mother did, oh no, Robbie, oh my God, clean
No
this
way.
up.
I find that spectacular and I love that age where the stuffed animals are placeholders for your fantasy or whatever you are acting out. And
Yes.
I just find that age to be so exquisite. I just remember using mine like I'd play school with mine,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
oh yeah.
or I'd make an agency or something, but the stuffed animals were almost placeholders for whatever your brain could think up. And I love that you made a town, and I think that's so fun. And stuffed animals and dolls kind of let us, okay, let's a lot of people played house or school was I think very common, but the fact that you made a town, it's just so fun. I think that stuffed animals to parents are like, oh, they're junk. And it
Oh
does
yeah,
feel
my
like
mom
this.
threw out Aslan. Sorry,
But to
mom.
us, it was like this remarkable whole world we would create.
Yeah, and they were alive
Really,
to me.
really fun.
You know, like they
They were alive, right?
I treated them like pets. Like
Yes, of course.
I would never like fling them or throw them or you know, I mean, I'm not saying that I really thought they were alive, but like they
I did. I treated them. I'm like, no, they're alive. Like I wanted to believe it so terribly that
right.
I just like
Well,
I love that. I think that's really, really fun.
you know, and there's some movie that I can't think of right now where a stuffed animal comes to life, and I I did I did always wish that that would happen, you know, because I always wanted a million pets, and we always had a cat and a dog, you know, around, but um yeah, I remember, and I remember too one summer it was my I think I was 10. I got pneumonia. I mean, what? You know, who gets pneumonia in the summer? This girl. So I had gone to my friend Jennifer's house. Shout out Jennifer. And we slept out on the porch. And on that day, I ate 5 Sloppy Joe sandwiches over the course of an afternoon. Because we ate Sloppy Joes for lunch. I had 2 for lunch. Then I had 1 for a snack. And then I had 2 for dinner. So in the space of like 5 hours, I ate 5 Sloppy Joes.
Okay, but you know what? I have something to say about Sloppy Joes, everybody. Sometimes the Sloppy Joe would be just a dab of sauce and 2 buns because you couldn't really catch the giant spoonful of the Manwich on the Manwich bottle.
Right.
Or can, I mean. Or you couldn't, on TV, you'd see this giant spoon and the meat would stay.
Yeah.
Globulized or whatever the word is. But when you made it in real life, there's one little piece of ground beef and like a dash of sauce. So you could have eaten 5 buns and, don't be too hard on yourself.
No, I remember eating, I mean, it was like, I don't even know what was up with me. I ate 5 Sloppy Joes. But we slept on the porch, which was probably a good thing. Actually, Jennifer's mom probably made us sleep on the porch. Like, you girls ate 25 Sloppy Joes. You're sleeping on the porch. So we slept outside on the porch, and it was a very cool and damp night, summer night in Buffalo that night. And sure enough, I came down with pneumonia. So I lost my sense of smell when I had pneumonia. And I was very sick, which was not cool. But when I started to get better, the first thing I smelled when my sense of smell returned was this little mini stuffed animal. It was a little mini Dakin stuffed animal. And this had a very pungent acetate, fake fiber smell. And I've smelled it since on some other stuffed animals. But that smell reminds me of like the low grade headache I had like the whole time I was sick, how I was out of breath all the time and like the fever and all this. And I couldn't play with anybody. Like people would come over and they would all avoid me because I was banished to my room with my virus. But, that I remember that really vividly, and it was crazy to me to lose my sense of smell. Like I couldn't, I couldn't smell dinner cooking and like the smell of coffee back in the day when people had like real like Mr. Coffee pots.
Right.
It's a little different than today's like Keurigs or, DeLonghi.
I still have a Mr. Coffee. I have an old-fashioned drip Mr. Coffee.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's great coffee. And my grandmother, which if any of you guys read my book, my novel, Taking Liberty, this was a huge part of the novel, was the mother, the character, Pearl, she had a percolator and she made percolated coffee. And that came from my mom's mother, Helen, who I stayed with them for a little while when I was in college. And she would be up every morning at 6 o'clock, knowing I had to leave the house at 7. She would make that percolated coffee. And I swear, it was like Bugs Bunny. Like the smell, I would like float down the stairs, like horizontally with my nose, leading the way.
Best part of waking up.
Exactly.
Is Folgers in your cup.
I think she used Maxwell House.
Yeah.
Good to the last drop, Maxwell House. So yeah, that's for you, Grandma.
That's so nice of Grandma Helen.
I miss her a lot. Yeah, she never wore perfume. She smoked those Pall Malls, so that I don't like the smell of cigarettes, so I associate that in a negative way. But she always had, being Polish, she always had some kind of sausage boiling on the stove. Like always, it was like
it's very Polish.
Yeah, it was almost like potpourri or something, like mulled cider. Like you would just put, like, maybe nobody even ate it. You just put it on the stove and boiled it because that's what you did. And so if I smell that, to this day, cooking Polish sausage, boiling on the stove, like that takes me back.
I boil in the winter. I boil cinnamon, cloves. Sometimes I just buy, that all-encompassing spice, pumpkin pie spice.
Yeah.
I just
Which
boil
is
that in the
basically
background.
nutmeg.
It's like nutmeg. It's like all of it combined. I just boil that in the background with a little bit of, vanilla extract.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
great, isn't
background
it?
smell of my house. And in the summer, I can't smell any of this, but like, because I'm around it too much. But people come over, oh, it smells good. I'm like, oh, good, because I don't know what the hell it smells like. But in the summer, I usually go with a lemon, like a fresh lemon smell, or a coconut. I like the coconut, suntan oil smell.
Now, are these like plug-ins,
No,
or
I
do
never
you
get a plug-in
use?
because it makes my throat itch and my eyes water. But I will get like a diffuser with those little essential oil drops, or a
Oh,
scented
yeah.
candle or something, like a really good one.
Yeah, I love the here's a here's a product,
Mhm.
not even an ad, just a unwarranted endorsement from me. I love the Airwick, the little essential oil diffuser thing. You get these little bottles of oil and you snap it in there and you put some batteries in
Mhm.
it, and
I used
then
to get those, yeah.
yeah, and I have that in my house, and I'm extremely sensitive to a lot of those chemicals, like you. Like I can't use those plugins. They
Yeah, my eyes start itching, my throat starts kind of
yeah,
I
my
get
my
like a sore throat.
right.
Yeah.
You feel like you're getting a cold or something,
Like I
but
need to
it's
take a Benadryl every time. And I always forget and I keep buying them again. I'm like, "Oh, Hawaiian Tropical. I need to get that." Girl,
yeah,
I'm getting a sore throat. No, it's the same plug-in that you've
right.
tried every 3 years.
Yeah, and you keep rebuying the
I
actual plug-in
keep
unit.
rebuying a plug-in.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it took me. I think it took me about 5 years to finally admit to myself that no, I can't use plugins. But I love that diffuser, and I like certain kinds of scented candles. Some of them bother me too.
Hmm.
And you know who
Yeah,
else they bother in my household?
your cat.
My cat Kilroy. He his eyes get watery, and he sneezes if mommy uses certain kinds of candles. So
Hmm.
I have to, but I never grew up with that stuff. My mom was not. She wore certain perfumes, and wow, those are triggers. Those are
Hmm.
triggers. Oh my gosh.
Mom
Um,
wore like Chantilly or one of those.
yeah, my mom wore Foxfire.
Foxfire. Is that Avon?
Yeah,
I think
that's an
we spoke of
Avon
this.
scent.
A
And
couple of
then
Avon scents, yeah.
there was another scent. I have to ask her. There was another scent that she wore that it was a big brand name. It wasn't Anjali, but it was, something along those lines. My mom I favor floral perfumes. Uh, like right now I'm wearing this Coach floral, not the regular Coach perfume, but this Coach floral, because it's the closest I could find to the old Gucci pink that is now discontinued. Damn you, Gucci. Okay, that was my
I
favorite
recall you
scent.
wearing Ralph Lauren Romance for a
Oh,
time.
I did. I did. I wore a lot of
Hmm.
Ralph. I worked my way through a lot of Ralph Lauren
Hmm.
scents. I liked those. They were light because I like light, sort
Yes.
of fruity florals. My mom favors very musky perfumes. Now she wears Flower Bomb,
Oh.
which is a powdery, great scent. But those the like when my mom and dad would go out, and you're a little kid, that was always kind of the signal, right? Because she would just, pile on the perfume.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it would still be lingering when the babysitter came and stuff. But
Yes, that is a good one.
yeah, that makes me think of mom, and my dad had this leather sport coat back in the 70s in the
Oh
day,
boy.
right?
Was it
And
very fragrant?
yeah, it smelled like
Yeah.
leather, and it was sort of it was like the burnt sienna
Hmm.
color, so it wasn't like a
So
dark brown.
70s.
Yeah, it was a super 70s coat. Dad was on. Like he
Oh.
was on point. So was my mom.
Hmm.
Her
Hmm.
fashion was pretty on point for a while there, yeah. But when nowadays, if I go into like a leather store and you smell that new kind of leather with that weird waxy stuff on it, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh man, that's my dad's leather jacket. You know,
totally.
how many hockey games we went to where he wore that leather jacket? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
what smells did you hate?
I hated the smell of, like most of us, boiling vegetables. It was not like a happy smell for me.
Like soup
Um,
or like boiling
no, like
potatoes?
broccoli, like steamed broccoli,
Oh,
steamed peas, just steamed vegetables. I was like, oh no, I gotta eat some mush later. Did not like that smell. Certain perfumes were just too much. And people would wear a lot of perfume back in the day where you were like, oh no. And then grandmothers kind of had a certain scent, like this soap smell.
mm-hmm.
Like, what was that? My family used Dial a lot, you guys. And we always smelled like our bathroom always smelled like Dial or like some kind of bar soap.
Yeah, we were an Irish Spring family.
I know
And
exactly what that smells like.
yeah, I find it very harsh. For a while there, I got
Pretty
my
harsh, yeah.
mom to buy me Ivory soap
Uh-huh.
because I liked that better. But yeah, Irish Spring to me it's too much of a guy scent, right? It's
Like
like a guy's
Coast. Remember
soap.
Coast was super like
Yeah,
brisk.
yeah.
We had Caress before you dress.
Caress
Caress.
is what I used when I got my own place,
When a little bit later was
right?
Caress.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole bathroom would smell like these products. And it kind of would linger out into the house. Some of these smells.
Yeah, like if you took a shower, there was a little, and you could smell like when I walked into other people's houses, um, it, you could smell everything they did. It was
Right?
like you could smell my friend Pam's house. Shout out Pam. Her mom was always making these delicious meals. Like she was a complex cook. Like she was,
Wow.
and their kitchen always smelled like it smelled like ham or bacon or something, but like uncooked, like she was preparing it. And I mean, it was a good smell. It was like a fresh meat smell or something. And they had like this wooden table that was like a certain kind of oiled wood or whatever. And it
Probably
just,
ye old English. There was some kind of a furniture polish smell also.
yeah, it smelled proper. Like our house, we smelled like lemon pledge, like
I think we did too. Lemon Pledge.
yeah. But they smelled, I don't know, they smelled like European or something.
Oh,
Pam's
interesting.
family, yeah. And they had a fireplace, a wood burning fireplace, and so did we. So there was a little bit in the wintertime. You would walk in and you would smell a little bit of that wood burning fireplace smell too, because back in the day, like you would just go and buy cords of wood from some dude. They pile them up on the side of the road, and it's like wood cords, $20 or whatever, and you would just pull up and grab some. Nowadays, people buy those fake logs and all that stuff.
We have bundles of wood at our grocery stores here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like it wasn't treated or anything. It was chopped up wood, so it would have
hmm
this kind of natural smell that smelled good. I remember
Yeah,
their house smelling that way.
that sounds really neat.
Yeah. So, Aim, we are out of time.
Really?
I know.
Really?
We filled up a whole show talking
Hmm.
about smells,
Oh my gosh, we did.
right? Crazy.
I'll be
Um,
darned.
I know. So, you know what, you guys, hit us up on. So we have Twitter and Instagram. They're both Glitter Bee Girls. And we have a website, glitterboomgirls.com. You might be listening to this on that very website. But we're also on Spotify. We're on Apple, Google Podcasts. What's the other one?
Audible, my favorite.
Audible. That's right. We're everywhere.
Love it.
But hit us up and send us a message. Let us know like
Did
what
you have a Dakin stuffed
Dakin.
animal?
Yeah.
Like Robbie Ann.
It was our
Did you
Dakin and
have
Co.
Did you have the lion?
Yeah, and what did it smell like? Like
Mm.
what smells yank you back, to childhood? I'm sure there's ones we've missed. We're gonna have to do another smells,
Yeah.
uh, episode. So, but anyway, thanks for listening, you guys. We always appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we we definitely love hearing from you. It's always fun to read the comments and stuff, and we don't get hate mail, Aim. And I'm going to curse us right now. I
Don't
love that we
say
don't
it.
get hate mail. Isn't that great?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's magnificent. Yes,
I know.
I love it.
Yeah, and we want that to continue. So, anywho, I'm Robbie Ann McPherson on the East Coast.
I am Amy Asbury on the West Coast.
And we thank you so much for listening today. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.